Hi there. So, one of the things that frequently comes up in my world when I'm working with my coaching clients and with therapy clients are the words that we use. I'm just going to switch off my phone because somebody might decide that they want to use some words. I don't mean that's not what I'm talking about today, though. Um, the words we use. The words we use can have a significant impact on the things that we're working to achieve. So we need to think about the words that we use, both in our internal self talk and also in conversations with other people. So there's an awful lot going on when we use words in self talk, for example. When we use words in self talk, are you aware that you're listening? That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it, right? The subconscious is listening to the words that you're using in your self talk. So let's explore this in a bit more detail. Let's see what's going on here. So, as I said a few moments ago, these words can have a profound impact on our mind and our overall well-being. Now, that sounds a bit weird, right? Words having an impact on our overall well-being, but it's true that they do. Language is a powerful tool. It's a powerful tool that shapes how we perceive the world. It shapes how we perceive our circumstances and ourselves. So let's have a think about how the words we choose can influence our mindset. But of course, as usual, I'm going to support this with some research evidence. So, what about positive effects of words on our mind? Well, we can talk about reinforcement of empowerment and growth. So, words that emphasize possibility, potential, resilience, and these are words or little phrases like I can, I'm learning, or I will overcome this. Those kind of words and phrases encourage a growth mindset. If you read Carol Dweck's work, she talks about the growth mindset, and she demonstrated that individuals who believe their abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work are actually more likely to embrace challenges and then persist despite any setbacks that might pop up. If you want to know where to find Carol Dweck's work, give me a shout, drop me a message, leave a comment, I'll let you know. So let's think about building self-confidence. If you use positive affirmations, things like, I'm capable, I trust myself, or I am worthy, those small phrases help to reinforce self-belief. And there are studies about this too. And they've shown that positive self-affirmations can enhance self-esteem, and as a result, they can reduce stress. Whoa, that's something worth thinking about. So, for example, there was a study by Cresswell and a few other people back in 2013, over 10 years ago. They found that self-affirmation exercises can improve problem solving, especially when we're stressed, by reducing the threat to our self-concept. So let's move on to another one. This is about encouraging solution-oriented thinking. Think about it, it's quite simple. Solution-oriented thinking, it's quite powerful as well. Focusing on solutions rather than problems by using language like, what can I do to solve this? Or how can I improve? That directs our attention towards constructive action. have a think about the phrases that you use and the phrases that you might want to use instead. There's research in cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, that supports the effectiveness of solution-focused language in fostering proactive behavior and resilience, according to Neenan, back in 2009. Solution-focused language. Have a think about it. And what about I talk about this a lot, gratitude, promoting gratitude and optimism. Words that are highlighting gratitude, such as, I'm thankful for blah, 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 or optimism, for example, like, good things are coming. That enables us to shift our focus from what's lacking to what's abundant in our lives. And there was research that found that practicing gratitude is strongly associated with far greater happiness and well-being. And that's because it helps people, it helps individuals to recognize and appreciate the positive aspects of the things in their lives. What's not to like? Remember, there's research about all of this stuff that I'm talking about. If you want to know who did it, who said what, give me a shout and I'll tell you. Some of it, by the way, I said based on my experience, but I'll let you know, don't worry. So what about negative effects of words on our mindset, also known as limiting belief? Phrases like, I can't, I'm not good enough, or this is impossible. Those sorts of phrases can trap us in a fixed mindset. And that's where we believe that our abilities and our circumstances are not changeable. Carol Dweck did some work on this as well. And she highlighted how a fixed mindset can hinder personal growth and adaptability. And that's because it limits our willingness to take on challenges. Fixed mindset, that's why I put my hands to the side of my head. The mind can't expand. Well, what about self-criticism and judgment? Are you any good at self-criticism? I know a lot of people who are. Harsh, critical language like, I'm a failure. That word is terrible, failure. Or I always mess things up. What does that do? It chips away at our self-esteem and also reinforces a narrative of inadequacy. You're not inadequate. But if you think in that way, you will begin to believe that actually you are. There was research on this by Gilbert, and he talked about self-criticism indicates that excessive self-criticism, bit of a repeat going on there, is linked to depression, to anxiety, and lowered self-worth. And then there's this other thing called catastrophizing. Catastrophizing is quite interesting. Using words like always and never. So, for example, I always mess up, or things will never get better. Those sort of phrases frequently lead to a distorted view of reality. Back in the 70s, a guy called Beck looked at cognitive theory of depression, and he identified that catastrophizing as a cognitive distortion exacerbates negative emotions and stress. And it does that because it magnifies problems and minimizes solutions. We don't want to go down that road, right? And then there's this thing about victim mentality. Language that places blame or paints us as helpless. So for example, nothing ever goes right. Nothing ever goes right for me. Why does this always happen to me? The ego's shouting out. But the thing is that this kind of develops or enables a victim mindset. Work on self-efficacy emphasizes that a sense of agency is crucial for overcoming challenges. Whereas if you have a victim mentality, that undermines your ability to take control and effect change where change is needed. So what about the way the self-talk works in the subconscious mind? Well, let's talk about subconscious reinforcement. So self-talk, when I talk about self-talk, what I'm referring to is the internal dialogue that occurs within our minds. We've all got it. If you read work by Eckhart Tolle, for example, he talks about this dialogue within the mind, and he says this is ego speak. The ego is speaking. The ego wants. The ego needs to be seen and recognized and stroked and patted and all that stuff. But this internal dialogue, that whether he's right or not doesn't really matter. The internal dialogue that occurs within our minds can be very powerful. And it's kind of like a continuous stream of thoughts. We're not always aware of it. It can be really positive or negative, and it plays a massive role in shaping our beliefs, our emotions, our behaviors. So the subconscious mind operates below the level of conscious awareness. And it's amazingly influential in how self-talk is processed and reinforced. So we've got to be careful what we say up there because we're listening. Somebody said that. That's not one of my phrases. I don't remember who did. Be careful what you're saying because you're listening. Think about it. A lot of our self-talk occurs automatically. So we're not consciously thinking about it. It's kind of without conscious deliberation. According to cognitive theories, cognition, by the way, is one of my main interests in psychology, apart from positive psychology. So according to cognitive theories, these automatic thoughts are deeply ingrained and can significantly influence our emotional and behavioral responses. Again, I need to mention Beck. Look at Beck's research on this. He published something way back in 1976. It's still relevant. When negative self-talk becomes habitual, it can embed limiting beliefs, and it can put those into the subconscious. And that makes them really hard to change. We're not always aware of them. We can find them. There are processes I can use, for example, as a therapist to find them. But finding them on our own is frequently almost impossible. I would not say impossible, almost impossible. So let's get on to some neuroscience, neuroplasticity and reinforcement. That's an interesting header, isn't it? The brain has we know the brain's amazing, and it also has an amazing ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. And this is known as neuroplasticity. It allows repeated self-talk to strengthen certain pathways. So if you keep repeating, I'm not good enough, you're not going to be good enough. You're going to start to believe that because the brain is going to build these new neural connections. It's going to say, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And guess what? You won't be good enough. And we don't want that, right? We can work the other way around as well with neuroplasticity. So we can introduce ideas that actually I'm pretty amazing. And we can build on that and form positive neural networks. What's not to like about that? Sounds like a bit cuckoo, a bit space age, a bit science fiction, but it's not. Extremely real. So positive self-talk can create and reinforce neural pathways that are associated with confidence and resilience. And on the other hand, negative self-talk can reinforce these pathways that are linked to anxiety, self-doubt. There's research about this as well. So what about our belief systems and the subconscious? Our subconscious mind, I've already said it's pretty amazing. The subconscious mind stores our core beliefs and our values. And they're often shaped by our repeated self-talk. So when we're consistently using empowering language, that enables us to shift, albeit gradually, but to shift gradually our belief systems to support a more positive and growth-oriented mindset. On the other hand, there's always another hand, persistent negative self-talk can entrench limiting beliefs, and those limiting beliefs can hinder personal development. Martin Seligman, who's one of the founders of positive psychology, did some research on this as well. So let's think about emotional regulation. What is emotional regulation? Well, our self-talk influences how we manage and regulate our emotions. So positive self-talk can help us to mitigate stress. It really can do that. And it can promote emotional well-being because it reinforces a sense of control and, big one, a sense of optimism. Optimism's a good thing, right? Whereas negative self-talk, however, can exacerbate stress. It can make stress worse. And it can contribute to emotional dysregulation. And that can lead to heightened anxiety and even depressive symptoms. So let's think about something. This next thing has got quite an interesting header. A lot of these things do because I like interesting headers. Let's think about something called subconscious priming. So the language that we're using can prime our subconscious mind to focus on particular aspects of our experiences. So, for example, consistently framing situations in a positive light can do wonders for priming the subconscious to seek out and recognize positive outcomes. Have you noticed how some people are really good at seeking out and recognizing positive outcomes? And of course, that can develop a more optimistic outlook generally. So what about some practical steps that can harness positive language? So let's be mindful of our self-talk. Let's pay attention to the words you say to yourself. If need be, make a little list on a pad. When you notice that you're saying a particular word or a particular phrase, write it down and reflect later on. Mindfulness practices as well. So John Kabat-Zinn did some work back in the 90s. And he was talking about using mindfulness because it can help us increase awareness of negative self-talk and facilitate reframing of thought into more constructive language. I help people with mindfulness. I don't teach mindfulness exactly, but I do use mindfulness to help people particularly, for example, in relation to the language, the self-talk. Think about using empowering questions too. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Woe is me. Try asking, what can I learn from this? What can I get out of this? Or how can I make this situation better? What can I do to improve it? So Seligman's research in positive psychology supports using empowering questions to foster resilience and proactive problem solving. Excuse me. I talk a lot about practicing gratitude, so practicing gratitude is particularly relevant here too. Incorporating words of gratitude into your daily routine can be really empowering. Research has found that regular gratitude practices can significantly enhance our overall well-being and our life satisfaction. What's not to like about that? Absolutes cause chaos sometimes. So let's try and replace absolutes with flexibility. So to do that, we would, in relation to words, we'd need to shift from words like never and always to more accurate and flexible language. Things like sometimes, or in this moment. Think about your language. What can you switch? Cognitive behavioral strategies, and I use CBT in my practice sometimes, advocates for challenging absolute statements because absolute statements create or cause, or partly cause, cognitive distortions. So challenging absolute statements can promote a more balanced perspective. Positive affirmations are helpful too. So if we can practice regularly positive affirmations, that can help us to reprogram the subconscious mind. So for example, if there's something that you feel currently, I'm not really very good at that, tell yourself this: I can be good at this. There are some things that I may need to do, but I can be good at this and I will be good at this. And then as you learn, I am good at this, I am good at this, and reinforce that, I'm good at this. Consistent repetition of empowering statements frequently strengthens positive neural pathways. And that, of course, diminishes, shrinks, whatever you want to call it, the impact of negative self-talk. Don't forget, you're not watching this live. You can pause while you think about things if you need to. And of course, as usual, if you've got questions, leave a comment. If you prefer not to leave a comment, and many people prefer not, that's fine. Send a direct message, no problem. I'm not worried about algorithms. I have the contacts. So become a contact by sending a direct message, no problem. Let's talk about visualization techniques. Visualization is something that is really wonderful if it's used. Many people don't use it. It is a very powerful technique. Visualizing positive outcomes and using positive language during visualization can further reinforce positive self-talk at a subconscious level. And using visualization has been shown to enhance performance and build confidence. And it does that because it helps to align subconscious beliefs with conscious goals. So we've got subconscious belief, and it helps to bring them in line with conscious goals. So by choosing our words carefully and understanding this interplay between self-talk and the subconscious mind, we can cultivate a mindset that is more resilient, more optimistic, and aligned with our goals in life, whatever they happen to be, whether they're business goals, personal and private goals, doesn't matter. And this practice not only changes how we think, but also how we act in the world. And that can make a big difference. So that improves both our inner and our outer experiences. If we use the power of language, supported by psychological research, as I've been linking to during this short talk, that empowers us to transform our mindset and consequently our lives. Remember, questions, comments, leave them as a comment or a direct message, whatever works best for you. Take care. Think about your words, and I'll speak to you again really soon.